I'm going to ask questions, some of which don't have answers to them. They're like koans. And the big is, what's the future of our human race? What's going to happen 200 years from today? Are we going to make it? Will we still be here? Environment, war. This question is on my mind almost every day.
It is. It's true.
What's going to happen with us? And I would like other people just to have that question with them, because it produces again and again new and creative answers. Not just reading the newspapers and say, oh, now tsunamis, now we didn't think, we worked on nuclear reactors, atomic energy, and we didn't think of this. We need to think of everything. In any case, how do you make a better world? Well, whatever that means. How do you make a world that works with a little bit less trouble in it? Earlier, people thought democracy was the way. Democracy is a fantastic idea. Let's have some equality. Yes, we need more equal rights, and we're fighting for that. The United States is itself just recently awakening to the meaning of equality and equal rights. I won't go into the details of it, but democracy, as you know, as some of you know, democracy is based upon the Greek word demos and krati. Demos is people, citizens. Krati is power. So the roots of democracy, as you know, are people power. So democracy means equal power. So that means that you have the same power as you and me. We should have equal powers. That's what deep democracy means. And we need equal power, and we need to fight for equal power, but that equal power is only the beginning. And by the way, we can fight for equal power and we can make it an outer thing, but when it comes to street talk, or when it comes down to working with somebody else, or coming into a restaurant, just looking at other people, the idea that the other person should have the same power as you do, hey, very few have it. Democracy is an outer idea. It's not usually enough inside. That is something I want to stress. Equal power also makes a terrific fight. If two fighters have equal power, that makes a reason. I don't know what reasonable means, but that makes it more reasonable than if there's unequal power. So, and democracy is really good. It's like about one group having more power than the other and pushing. So this is all democracy. Democracy is about, can you push as hard as the other side? Can you get the other side? And we need more of that, and I'm willing to fight for democracy. It produces a great fight, but it doesn't help relationship. The United States, with the Democrats and the Republicans, for those of you who remember the newspapers, just very recently almost shut down the government because two sides of two parties can't get along together very well. Well, that's okay. That's a beginning. That's democracy, but it doesn't help relationship. Democracy is not a study of equal power in the process of relating. So that's why I've been saying we need a deeper democracy, one which has more relationship consciousness. Relationship consciousness? Yeah, first up here, at least equal power. That's just on the verge of getting that. There's revolutions all over the world. And then just beneath those revolutions can be a next step. We call it I'm calling it deep democracy. It's an important next step, and we're trying to bring that in. That's why we bring the whole dreamland in. For example, deep democracy should be including history, unspoken roles. I've already mentioned rank things like that, that might separate us. For example, you look at me. I'm Arny, but I'm not just the Arny that you see. I have relatively, to some people, lighter skin. I'm identified at least with being American. I'm male. Having light skin is enough to turn a lot of people off. Being a male isn't everybody's preference. Being a heterosexual male is even less people's preference. Or a couple. Being in a relationship with somebody you like, that's also something that not everybody shares. So I'm saying there's all sorts of hidden little things under there that you look at me, I look at you, and God help us. Or somebody else. They're little teeny weeny little things. And these little teeny weeny little things, that's relationship consciousness. Who has it? Not me, and not alone. Together. No one has this alone. So there's these, you may like me, and yet there's these other things in the background. And I also want to mention that deep democracy includes, as Amy said, hidden powers, projections, history. Speak about history. What these people brought this morning, the history they spoke about. Those are ghost roles in our room. When we get to go doing a large group process, perhaps we'll touch on things like that. So it supports social action at the forefront. One group is down. That group needs to come forwards and express itself in as powerful a way as possible to protect themselves. Inequality is horrible. It doesn't work really well. So deep democracy supports social action, but goes deeper. Makes you realize, too, sometimes you're a little bit about, you're like the people who you've been victimized by. There's something not all bad about the other side, is what I'm saying. And there is, at the same time. So deep democracy requires a 1, 2, 3 awareness. It isn't that complicated, really. Amy's already mentioned it. One, what's the reality out there like? Be clear and talk about reality. Talk about it at home. Talk about it in your family systems. In the real world, this is happening, this group is there. We're from a group that is marginalized, or we're from a group that has privileges. Hey, talk about that. Encourage everybody to talk about their privileges and lack of them, to become conscious of things. So that's number one. Number two, realize that though you are you and need to be you, something about the other is also inside and around, for better or for worse, depending upon this. 1, 2 is the dreamland thing. The third thing is there is something about everyone here that is beyond and encompasses and encourages. It's beyond all the diversity things. Something inside of you is there for everybody, even though it's not always conscious, and it needn't be either. I don't want to say it ought to be, but I know it's down there, and it is as well. And it's that spiritual thing, whatever you call it, that has survived, that has allowed many groups to survive as well as they have. So with training, getting down to this deeper thing, I call it the process mind, will help you also not burn out and not age too quickly when you do conflict work. You need a center that's in the midst of it, and a center that also gives you just a titch of detachment that you can manage the whole stuff. Deep democracy, so it's large group work that we need, but also this kind of work is about relationship work, and it's about deep inner work. It has these 3 levels to it also. That's why we suggest, as you know, we suggest these things. If you work with an organization or a group or a school or your family system, always notice the atmosphere. It's something that can hardly be spoken about, the atmosphere. What's it like? Is it heavy? Is it fun? Whatever. If it's uncomfortable, there's usually some roles in the background that need to be talked about. Don't hesitate to guess into the roles. That's a big piece of Worldwork. If the atmosphere is a little heavy, bring out the roles you think they are. Like, for example, Amy said before, she's nervous about coming out in public. Well, there's a role in her, but there's a role in the room which says about every facilitator up in front, we think you're not bad people, but we could do it better. And that's important, because the part of you that can do it better ought to. you have inner work, but your inner work at the same time is a little bit on the outside. And get down, this is the Worldwork method. And I just want to say, I was saying to the our colleagues or facilitators the other day that when I began Worldwork many years ago, as some of you know, my teachers thought I was crazy. What? Are you going to have people meet and talk about social issues in a public way? Are you crazy? Because it's hard. It brings up all their psychological abuse issues. I said, yeah, well, that's what happens in war. Yeah, but why do it? That's the reason. It's not easy, but if you stay close to your deepest self and to your heart and to whatever you believe in, whatever you call that, and follow yourself and facilitate things inside and outside, it's easy, a little easier. And we want to do that and share that with you. So for me, success is not just peace or justice. Boy, we need more peace and we need more justice. Peace is that, but it's not just that. It's relationship consciousness. Peace, success in politics would mean, for me, would mean have more, teach the different sides. Learning how to relate with one another would be a rather big thing. I'm very interested in that. So to make it short, let me just say, am I going too fast? I'm okay? So remember, any skills in any facilitation or any Worldwork method, any conflict method that you've ever learned, bravo, use it. And if it doesn't work, learn more and learn about the way you do things, the skills, the meta skills. I call that the second training. And the second training, no one can really teach you. It comes from the ground and the universe that we live in, and feeling that and staying in touch with it, each in her own way. And we'll do an exercise on that in a couple of minutes. Each in her own way. Stay in touch with that. It's your greatest meta skill in facilitating things. It's just what I call the second training. First trainings, learn anything that works. And if it doesn't work and you can't do it because you're screwed up one day and you're all nervous about something, be nervous and find your other deeper self to help you use the tools that you know already. Because tools are great, but they don't work when you're screwed up.
Yeah.
Screwed up is an English word which means troubled.
Trouble. Having a bad time.
Having a bad time, yeah, okay. Okay, I think that's it. And the second training, thank you, Louis. The first training skills are here, the ones we're teaching here, about signals and roles and ghost
training.
roles, and these are first training things, and using any skills that you know. And the second training is getting in touch with your deepest self, whatever name you call it. Some will call it God, I call it the earth, the universe, I call it the process mind. Getting in touch with your deepest self. Remembering it, and it takes a little courage to remember it in public, remembering it and bringing that together with the toolbox that you have to work with whatever is happening. Because you can't get to your toolbox if you're too troubled yourself by what's happening. It's very hard sometimes. So we're going to be working on this meta skill of the, Amy's word, meta skill with the process mind. Okay, and only one last thing I'll say, and that is, I'll just draw it in the air. Can you see this? It's a circle, and you see this part of it too? There's a circle, and inside is this. Can you imagine? Tai Chi symbols. You ever seen that before? Okay, here let's say is a big black area with a white spot, and here is a big white area with a black spot. What's that say? Well, it says, don't answer that. What I want to say. That's a trap question, you say. You do that sometimes. Yeah, as you know, what I think of that even though you're in one side, part of you is in the other. And even though you're on the other side, part of you is also on the other side. Even if it takes 20 years, you'll switch roles. I guarantee it, because I now know it. I've seen it. Activists who were on one side many years ago switched to this side.
At least a part of it.
Bless that behavior. All of us need it. Take a stand. But I'll remember that even though you may be on one side now, and that's incredibly important to take that side, don't you budge an inch. But at the same time, I know there's a little something that's itching over to the other side eventually.